absolute power corrupts absolutely. And then one day you look up and you've got 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
There seems to be this reckoning that's happening now.
Oh boy, isn't there? When chickens come home to roost.
Give it up for Melissa Ford. The face of an era of music videos. Did you know you were a bad bitch?
No, not even a little bit. I've always kind of like been at war with my looks.
Were women nice to you on the come up of you in your earlier days of your career?
I've experienced like lethal jealousy and envy in this business.
Were there moments, Melissa, where your safety was in danger?
You know, some guy walks in the room and I'm not really paying much attention to him. And then another guy walks in the room and the next thing I know, there's like 10 guys in the room. All these guys tried to put their hands on me at the same time. Like, I'm not even just talking about like my arms, I'm talking about like my thighs and stuff.
They actually touched you?
Yes.
And some of these rappers, did they try to use their power to get your pants?
It was expected that something would or could happen to you, and you just had to figure out how to be hypervigilant about your safety.
Were you ever invited to Diddy's freak-offs?
I've been at Diddy's parties.
And what would you see that was sort of like interesting?
A lot of very famous people.
Do you believe that more men are going to be exposed like Diddy is based on what you know and have seen in your lifetime?
Yes. There's way more than just him.
Obviously, you dated Drake. Our mutual friend Tocarra was on my podcast.
Yeah, I saw that shit.
Were you mad?
Yeah, but then the revisionist history was a little wild to me.
There was a conversation you and Tocarra had.
I'll sum it up for you. You don't even have to ask me shit. I had no idea that she had a date planned with him. I had no clue, but I was already dating him. Be clear who the I was in 2009. I'm Melissa Ford. I'm not worried about anybody else. I'm a beautiful woman. I'm an accomplished woman. I am a gainfully employed. I have a lot going for me. A lot. I'm not going to dim my shine for anybody.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yes.
There's one rapper who I always feel like you should have dated. Nas.
Why didn't you set it up?
You were doing Hollywood Unlocked. It did sadden me to see that you and Jason fell out. What happened with your relationship with him?
Yeah,
Hey Raindrops, now before we get into this video, I want to talk to you about joining my community. Yes, my YouTube community of subscribers. So make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. It helps build the channel and build our community. I love it when you guys comment and post. So remember, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. So, Raindrops, I'm back. And I wanted to kick things off with a woman who I've known. Funny story. My first job in this business as a production assistant was on her show called BET Style. I was her production assistant. She was obviously the host of it. And we're going to get into that. But give it up for the legendary, honey. I mean, we're talking about a woman who has remained relevant for many decades and is still popping shit now. Give it up for Melissa Ford.
Thank you. That is a hell of an intro, my darling.
I mean, my first day at work, I got hired by Candida Boyette to be production assistant. Kim Stokes was a producer. Shamir Brown, Andre Cole, Tamika Green was the writer. And here I am being assigned to work with Melissa Ford, and you look the same.
Let's put a year on this. This was 2004.
Yes.
2004, girls. 2004.
20 years ago.
20 years ago, yes.
And
yes.
you have been doing well ever since. But I want to take a trip down memory lane, and I want to first ask you, how are you?
Oh boy, isn't that always like kind of like a loaded question? I'm just like, how am I? Are my hormones balanced right now?
You are Scorpio.
Yeah, I know.
I think your hormones are always imbalanced as a Scorpio.
Yeah, and then add the perimenopause, bullshit. So yeah, I'm really good. I'm really good at this particular stage in my life. I feel really kind of connected to myself, if that makes any sense. Like I have been on quite a journey, and a lot of that journey has been like an undulating, tumultuous mental health journey. So at this big age of 47 years old, I like absolutely am so in love with myself. I feel really I feel very proud of myself. I have learned how to give myself grace that I never knew how to give myself in, years where I really deserved it, in my 20s and my 30s. I feel really good about my decision making. I feel really good about where I am professionally. I feel really good about where I am financially. I'm a brand new, investment homeowner. Like things are really, really great right now.
Were there moments
Yes.
where you're like,
Yes.
Well, I can take it. You better answer my question. It's one thing when you interview a fellow podcast host, she knows everything before I even ask it.
No.
But what has been interesting about you is you literally have been in this game for
25 years.
25 years. You're this biracial woman from Canada who made it big in the States. I mean, Miss Thing, you literally, and I'm not just saying this because you're in front of me, the face of an era of music videos. You were known as Hype Williams' protege. You know, the way Matthew Knowles is known as like the man behind Beyonce. The way Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis is known as the men behind Janet Jackson. Hype Wills was behind this ingenue where
Also, I think Director X would be he'd be like, excuse me,
Well, I was
because
gonna get to him
he
too.
was like, hold on, honey, I found her.
Yeah, so
I found her. So
talk to me about, I mean, seriously, you're from Canada.
Yeah.
White mother.
Yes.
Right? Who raised you. And we'll get to that interesting dynamic, right? But what was it like being in New York City? And did you, and let's have a real conversation. Did you know you were a bad bitch?
No, not even a little bit. I was so intimidated about the thought of like, New York women and their sophistication and beauty and that sort of thing. Like, I'm just like this girl from Canada, born and raised in Toronto. And I've always kind of like been at war with my looks, I mean, there was an understanding of that I was attractive and that my body looked a certain way because, I mean, the response was always extremely visceral, both from men and from women. And from women, it could either be praise or it could be outright jealousy. But it was different here. I mean, like where, I don't know, like I felt like growing up, I always felt like I was kind of overweight. But here it translated into voluptuousness, So I felt when I moved here, I wasn't really prepared for the level of appreciation that I got from people, because I was just more the urban standard of beauty. That's really what I was. And so when I moved to New York, it was very much a culture shock. First of all, I was amazed at how many Black people there were. Like in Toronto, you got to go out specifically to like a party or whatever the case is because everything is so spread out and, you have pockets and communities and stuff like that. But really like a bashment had to be happening or like, a festival or like a club or something like that to see like everybody kind of congregate. But here I was in Harlem, where was I? It was 132nd and Frederick Douglass. That was where I first lived. Wait, 142nd. That was where I first lived when I first landed here. And I just couldn't believe how many Black people I saw. I was like, oh my God, so many black people. And then Puerto Ricans, like, I didn't understand. I'd never seen Puerto Ricans before. There's none in Canada. So I was like, why do they look black and Spanish at the same time? It was just so cool for me to see something that was not something that I was used to seeing. I was used to seeing so many, like, mixed people and mixed races and, you know, people from all over the globe. But this was just such a concentration of and a homogenized kind of, you know, kind of community. I'd never seen that before. So that was like one of my first experiences living in New York. And then just like the noise, the dirt, the rats, the water bugs, like these mofos walk up to you and be like, can I get some of that pizza? You know what I'm saying? So I had to get used to that. I had to just kind of get used to like the abrasiveness of like New York. I kind of like, it just felt like I was like, oh, this is my tribe, you know, because I could be a little caustic sometimes. But New York just felt like the place I was supposed to be. And I got here at the right time. I was like 21 years old. And there is no city in the world to be in like New York City when you're young.
Honey.
This is not the city for you as you creep up in age, okay? It is hard on the body. It is hard on the body, but when you are 21 years old and you could bounce a quarter off any part of your body, it was so much fun.
So how did little X discover you?
He was in Toronto, and he was shooting a video called Northern Touch. And it was like the Canadian Rap All-Stars. It was the Rascals, it was Choclair, Socrates, Cardinal Official, and he was looking for the girl that was gonna star in the video. And so his boys were helping him cast. And they were just like going through their Rolodex of like, you know, all the hot girls in Toronto. And so every time X saw a girl, he was like, nope, nope, nope. And they were like, what are you looking for? And he was like, I will know her when I see her. And then they both thought of me at the same time. They're like, what about Melissa? And he was like, who's this Melissa? And they showed him a picture and he was like, call her now. And so they were like, they called me up and they were just like, do you know who Little X is? I was like, the video director? They were like, yeah. I said, yeah, I know who he is. And they were like, he wants you to star in a music video. I was like, why? And they were like, because you're hot. I was like, oh, okay, well, sure, I'll meet him, you know. I'm in university at this time, and I'm like working 2 jobs to pay my way through university. I wanted to be like Clarice Starling from Silence of the Lambs. I was focusing on being a profiler, studying serial killers and the deviant mind. I wasn't thinking about being a hot girl in a video. That was the last thing on my mind. But I was like, am I gonna get paid? They were like, yep. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get some coins? Sure, I'll put that towards books. And to me, it was like a fair trade. So I was like, sure, I'll go do this over the course of a weekend. And then that was it. That was it. And then I just kept on getting called for music videos. And I was just like, I like the money and sometimes the travel. Like, shout out to everybody in Trinidad for Big Pimpin'.
How much did you get paid to be in Big Pimpin'? Do you remember?
I wasn't at the rate yet that, you know, where I became like the highest paid video model. I wasn't at that rate just yet, but my rate was climbing. So I want to say that I got paid maybe $2,500 or something like that to do Big Pimpin'. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like the amount. Yeah, and that was good.
And you became the highest paid video vixen.
Yeah, by the time that I did Knock Yourself Out, Jadakiss' video, and that was shot July 4th weekend, 2001. Yeah.
And how much was that?
I made, I want to say $10,000 a day. Yeah. Yeah. That was great.
Because the other thing is this.
Because I wasn't even a celebrity at that time, you know? So it's just like I was a video model, but I was now recognized and I'd started to appear on like in magazines and that sort of thing. But I wasn't the cover girl yet. That really like kind of put me on the map. That was it.
the girls were like you and Gloria Velez, right? Did you two have a friendship?
Yeah. Glow and I met on the video set Cher Shayla Ghost, Ghostface Killer. But we found out that we had also done Big Pimpin' together, but she was in the Miami shoot and I was in the Trinidad shoot. And this was when MTV used to do these world premiere videos and everybody would like run to the TV and watch the video as like, you know, because it was like an anticipated video because everybody had heard the song already. So while we were shooting Cher Sheila Ghost in the Parker Meridian Hotel on 57th Street in New York, we had like 2 hotel floors, the entire things. During, just kind of like off-camera time where we weren't required to be on set, we were all just kind of chilling in bedrooms and stuff like that, and in the makeup room and the glam squad room and whatnot, and the TV was on, and there we are on the screen, and I'm like, oh my God, you were in that video? She was like, yeah, girls. And so, that was where we met. We found out that we did that, and then fast forward, we ended up doing Thong Song Remix with Cisco, and then Cisco asked us both to be his lead dancers and go on tour with him.
How was that?
NSYNC was the main act, was the headliner. Cisco was the second act, and Pink was the opener. And this is when she was still singing R&B. There you go, looking pitiful.
And you're a dancer.
And so I'm not a dancer. I am not a dancer. It was like some little choreographed, moves and matching outfits and stuff like that. But it's just, he called us his 6-pack. So it was like 2 lead girls, 4 backup girls. And we had just like this little dance that we could do. And don't ask me to do it because I don't remember. And even if I did, I would never do it. It took me all over the place. I mean, I saw so much of the country and a little bit outside of the country. And by the time I got back to Toronto, the rose-colored glasses had come off and Toronto looked like a podunk town to me that I had to get out of.
Yeah.
And so that was, I would say, the catalyst for my decision to move to the States with $25, 2 suitcases, and a one-way ticket, and no permission from this country to be here, and no permission from mine to leave. I was illegal for about 2.5 years.
You were an illegal citizen.
I was. I totally was. I worked under the table as a bartender. I was not exactly inconspicuous, but I was everywhere. I'm on magazine covers and shit like that. And I'm just bobbing and weaving customs. Like, I won't leave the country. Like, if anybody from Canada wanted to come visit me, like, they wanted to see me, they had to come visit me because I could not risk leaving the country. So I finally found a modeling agency to do my paperwork through. So I got my first visa, so now I was legal and a tax-paying citizen. So all is right with the world.
Well, good. I'm glad you're legal, honey. We don't want no problems.
Yeah. Now it's been a very long time since those days.
I want to go back to just that era because as a Black woman at this time, and obviously I'm just like new to New York City, it's the early 2000s, and I tell everybody the early 2000s
were epic. They were epic.
Melissa.
I mean, I feel so sorry for Gen Z. You'll never know.
Ever.
You'll never know what it was like to not to be in the moment, to live in the moment, to not have to worry about posting anything or optics or analytics or likes or whatever. We wore our best business casual to the club. You know what I'm saying?
We would leave work and go to the club. Get home at 4 a.m. and be right back at work at 10.
Yes. I actually ended up renting office space at 7 West 18th Street, and this is also where X had office space, Benny Boom had office space, and Hype Williams had office space. And there was also a casting agency there, and there was also like a website company there. And when I say that you never knew who was gonna walk through the door, I walked in and the Clips were doing like a photo shoot. I've walked in and there was like a casting going on for like a Ludacris video. I personally brought Kanye there. I brought 50 there. Like, you never knew who was going to be there. There was one time where we had like a party and we came back the next day and there was like 2 people sleeping on like the conference room table. We don't know who they were, but the shit was wild. Like, fun times, man.
Yeah.
The early 2000s were amazing. And then I'm bartending during this time too. Oh, lit.
What were some of the moments as you were obviously that girl the go-to girl. You're in Big Pimpin'. You're in Trinidad. You're with Jay-Z. You're with Dash. You're with like all of these like extremely famous rappers. Were there moments, Melissa, where your presence, your safety was in danger doing these videos?
Yeah. There's one particular experience that like I've spoken to a few times where, you know, I was on the Cher Shayla Ghost set and I was feeling just a little overstimulated. Like that's a word that we use now and didn't use it then. I just felt like I had to get away from everybody, you know. So I found a quiet corner. I ended up in the crafty room, and that's craft services where all the snacks are and stuff. And so I ended up in the crafty room. Now I'm wearing a really, 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 really tight little dress. Like it's floss, okay? Like, and it's right under my butt crack. Like I can't sneeze. Otherwise I will be charged with indecent exposure. It's that little, you know? And so I'm just kind of by myself and, you know, some guy walks in the room and I'm not really paying much attention to him. And then another guy walks in the room and the next thing I know, there's like 10 guys in the room. And I am sitting kind of like in a corner like this. And then the rest of the room and the door is over there. And then they start to kind of like, you know, make their way over to me and they're talking to me. And then suddenly they start, you know, kind of like touching me and stuff like that. And I just realized at this moment in time, like something was about to go down and I was terrified and I did not know how to get myself out of it. And it's like one of those moments where a woman is confronted with the notion of, do I make a scene and risk being humiliated or embarrassed or looking like a fool? Or do you not give a shit, throw caution to the wind and err on the side of caution and make a scene in order to get yourself out of this situation that seems very tenuous right now? And I think that sometimes a lot of women, they don't do that because it's like they have this fear of offending, you know, or the fear of like making a mountain out of a molehill. When every red flag is, you know, and red like alarm is going off inside your head. Thank God one of the the crew walked in at that time and he could see the look of sheer terror on my face. And he just said, "Hey, Melissa, I think that they need you on set." So he was like, "Let me take you." And he exited me out of the room. And so crisis averted and stuff like that. But I will never, ever forget the sheer terror that I felt from having like all these guys try to put their hands on me at the same time. Like, I'm not even just talking about like my arms. I'm talking about like my thighs and stuff.
They actually touched you?
Yes.
Melissa.
Yeah, and I don't know who they were. I mean, probably Entourage because videos were always filled with members of the entourage, the extended entourage, mofos that just don't even need to be there, but somebody called somebody called somebody called somebody kind of thing. And so when that happened, you know, I just kind of like created my own kind of safety plan, you know? I made a point to just really not be too chummy with the artists. Because really, honestly, I don't have any of the power. The power is the producers. The power is casting. The power is the director. The power is, like, those are the people that make the decisions that affect you, like your paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
But some of these rappers, because these rappers are celebrities, did they try to use their power to get in your pants?
Yeah, of course. You know, a lot of them it's highly suggestive stuff, but I mean, they weren't forceful. I won't say that, but they were definitely, you know, a lot of suggestive conversations. More, I'm being kind by saying suggestive. But yeah, you know.
Would they expose themselves to you?
No, I don't think that I experienced that on my, like, you know, myself. But you definitely, like, hear other girls' stories and stuff like that. Like, there was one particular artist where we all were, like, you know, in between scenes, lengthy days, we would sleep like beavers, you know, like back to back. Beavers, in order to not drown, they kind of sleep back to back, you know? And so I would be like, you keep 6, I'm gonna take a nap, you know, keep your head on a swivel. And then when I'm done, you go ahead, you know, take a nap. And I got our 6 and stuff like that. But that was how a lot of women just kind of like, you know, survived, for lack of a better word, doing these kinds of projects and trying to maintain like a sense of hypervigilance over our sense of personal safety.
There seems to be this reckoning that's happening now.
Oh boy, isn't there? When chickens come home to roost.
How do you, being a woman at the birth of the hip hop era in the early 2000s, experiencing what you experienced, seeing what you've seen, do you feel like good? It's happening, and I'm glad that someone is leading the charge in making these men be accountable for their bad actions back in your prime of being a music video person.
Absolutely. 1,000%. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, like, there's so much whataboutism happening in the, in the general conversation about, you know, who's been taken down and whatever else. Oh, it's another black man being taken down. It's just like, yeah, but what if he was the predator that he's rumored to have been, and that there's proof out there and that people have been screaming from the rooftops that this is how this person conducts themselves and this is how this person treats people. What about that part, you know? Like, two things can be true at the same time. And that's one of my favorite things to say. Two things can be true at the same time. Somebody can be responsible for a catalog of music that is literally the soundtrack of our lives, and we regard them with so much fondness in that way. And they're also a terrible fucking person and a fucking predator. Yes, that both things can be true at the same time. You know, like we hold celebrities like on this pedestal, and it's just like, these are real actual people that some of them have some very specific deviances, and it's only fueled by attention, fame, money, you know, and just how much people just kind of like bow at the altar of fame. Like, in essence, we kind of create these monsters, you know, and it takes a really long time, like what we're seeing, 30 years for, you know, this reckoning that's happening. But I also think that a lot of what's happened is during the time that we were, you know, where I was at my most popular doing music videos, we didn't have, first of all, there was no human resources. So if something happened to you, who the fuck were you complaining to? And I'm not even talking about just video girls. There was the ancillary women that were working, casting directors, you know, directors' agents, glam squad, creative directors, video commissioners, wardrobe, stylists. Like, all of these women were not, they were subject to the same amount of, you know, of attention, or, you know, like that they, you know, attention that they didn't want, like, you know, male attention that was like kind of unsolicited and predatory. They were subject as well. And so there being no human resources, like, who do you go complain to or tell that this has happened to you? Like, where's the penance? Where's the consequences for the action? There was none, you know, and it got to the point where people were just like, it wasn't just like I've said before, it wasn't that it was just, you know, accepted. It was expected that something would or could happen to you. And you just had to figure out how to be hypervigilant about your safety and also creative. And a lot of women just kind of like, a lot of them, their plan of action was just to serve up a tadpole in order for her to escape, you know, the attention that she did not want, the predatory attention. So when you
say that, you're saying that oftentimes women in these positions would take someone like you, for example, right? A video model, and
not necessarily me, like not me in my position, but maybe like an extra.
An extra.
Yeah, because I'm lead, I'm principal, I'm the star. So no, no.
Okay.
No.
So they would take some of the extras and prop them up for these men to take advantage
I mean,
of.
and that's just an example of somebody who's just much lower on the totem pole. You know what I'm saying? So this was just like the way that it just was. It was the wild, wild west. It was treacherous. We were swimming in treacherous waters with sharks. And there was tadpoles, there was frogs, there was a whole bunch of like, you know, marine life in there. But you had to kind of decide which role you were going to play. And sometimes the role that you chose was literally for the purpose of survival, you know?
Were you ever invited to Diddy's freak-offs?
I've been at Diddy's parties. It's not the same thing. Yeah.
And what would you see that was sort of like interesting?
A lot of very famous people.
In compromising positions?
No.
Okay.
No. Like Diddy's parties were world renowned. Everybody knew about them. They were incredible. You know, just his chill stuff at the, you know, one of his houses. They were like, everybody wanted to be there, you know? So, I mean, like, last party that I was at, like, Mary J. Blige, Quincy Jones was there. Like, everybody was there. But it was like everything was basically on the up and up. This was just a party.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like there was something happening in town, like maybe it was like BET Awards or Grammys or something like that. So this was like the last party that I was at, which would have been 2017, because 2018 was my car accident, and that's where my life shifted dramatically. So I wasn't really going out to a lot of parties. But that was the last party that I was at, and it was a big party. There was a lot of people there, but I wasn't there for the freak offs. I was reading the indictment and the lawsuits like everybody else, like mouth agape. You know? Wow. But
does it surprise you?
no.
No.
Not even in the slightest bit.
Because you
just and
heard things.
Yeah. Also, but like people are like kind of marveling at his level of recklessness, and I'm like, you around enough like exorbitantly rich men, and I call it rich man syndrome. You know, they drop something on the floor and they're like, somebody got to get that. You know what I'm saying? Like they walk through the world blithely, like there's a wake in front of them, like the Red Sea's parting, and they just expect everything and everybody to like kowtow and bend to their every whim and that sort of thing. And it's like, it's rich man syndrome. And if you're rich and you're famous and you're powerful for a long amount of time, look, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's the rarest of person that really stays, you know, kind of like with their moral compass pointing due north. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I feel like compromise, if you're not just a complete and total deviant, I feel like compromise, especially in Hollywood, compromise can like, you know, slowly start to like, you know, move that compass needle like down a little, but it happens incrementally, like kind of, you know, at a glacial kind of pace where you don't even notice it. And then one day you look up and you've got 1,000 bottles of baby oil and, you know, like, and you're recording yourself having with everybody and you're beating people. It's just like, I think it's a gradual process, but it happens to more people than you would want to believe. So there's more than just him. There's way more than just him. And honestly, I can't wait for this trial. I am going to be sitting there with my popcorn because I cannot wait to see who they subpoena.
Do you think more men are going to be exposed?
Yes.
May I ask you this?
Don't ask me who. I have no idea.
I will never ask you who.
Okay.
What I would like to ask you...
And if I had an idea, so I wouldn't say.
I know. I already know you would. That's why I'm not asking you, because I know you. I'll ask you off camera. No, I'm thinking, based on what you may know or have seen, do you believe that more men are going to be exposed like Diddy is based on what you know and have seen in your lifetime?
Yes, and that's just simply because of like the close proximity of all of them. You know what I'm saying? And just, you know, it's just so interesting when you think about it. Who was it? Was it the VMAs that just gave Diddy the Icon award or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
And New York just gave him the key to the city, like maybe the same year or something like that. We were referring to this man as Black excellence just less than 2 years ago, you know? And when you look at like the Rock Nation brunch and you see like, you know, or like a Floyd Mayweather fight, or you see, you know, just the events that everybody wants to be at. And then you see the people that breathe the rarefied air, you know, and who they just spend the majority of their time with. It's not a wild notion to think that, you know, behind the scenes that there is a lot more connective tissue. It's just, to me, it's like a foregone conclusion, you know? So we're probably going to be hearing about a lot more, you know, names and public figures with accusations being leveled at them or being, you know, kind of caught up in this dragnet.
Based on your knowledge, are you somebody who they would subpoena?
No.
Okay.
Hell no. No way. Not me. No.
And I'm down for it, baby.
Yes.
I want to ask you this, because there seems to be this perception about you that I would love for you to answer.
Oh, my goodness.
About whether or not you are a girl's girl. Were women nice to you on the come up of you in your earlier days of your career? Were they, you know...
Tell me where you heard that from, that I'm not a girl's girl.
Well, you and I both have been in the business for a long time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, especially nowadays, I mean, you are a part of not one of, you're a part of the biggest podcast in our community.
Yeah,
right?
It's the biggest urban podcast in the world. And I'm not a fan of the word urban, but it is the biggest urban podcast in the world.
Yeah,
for lack of a better word.
You are a part of something that is number one.
Yes.
Right?
It's a cultural juggernaut.
Yeah, and obviously that is filled with men.
Yeah.
And there has been conversations just based on viewers who feel like, does she support women? Is this because she was a part of this dog-eat-dog world, similarly to the beauty pageants, how it was like not self-sabotage, but how other beauty pageants would sabotage each other to get the crown. Was Melissa Ford a part of this world where she wasn't a girl's girl because she knew that she had to beat this person to get this gig?
No.
And has that translated in her adulthood?
Never. I've always been in competition with myself. Nobody else. I've never competed for a role for anything. Like, if we're gonna talk about music videos, I was always just chosen. Like, the work I was given, I was chosen for. There was nobody to beat out. You know, there was nobody to beat out. They were given to me. These were projects that were handed to me because I was who they wanted. When it came to working for BET, that was not handed to me. I solicited them, you know, like I had to prove my worth. So like I created scenarios that they could, you know, place me in to basically audition me, you know, before I even got BET style. This was me, you know, basically trying to prove my talent and my worth and my dedication to Stephen Hill. So he was responsible for, and Tigger was also very instrumental. Like, hey, Stephen, you got to meet Melissa. She's really amazing, and I think that we should, you know, she should join the on camera talent pool here. Blah blah blah. But I had to like work for that. But it was my idea. I wanted to take the exit ramp from doing music videos to on-camera television hosting. Like, I was tired of being like a silent mini movie star. I wanted people to hear my voice and hear that I had something to say and hear that, you know, that I could string two sentences together and that I was like a loquacious, you know? But, you know, I mean, whether I'm a girl's girl, like, I mean, my circle of girlfriends is massive and it's global. Like, I have girlfriends, my best friend is the first girl that I met on the first day of high school, you know, when I was like 12 or 13 years old. She's still my best friend. Shit, one of my girlfriends is sitting right over there. I have an enormous circle of girlfriends, but I have experienced like lethal jealousy and envy in this business.
In what way?
Well, I mean, I was on a reality show where a woman smashed me in the head with a bottle. In what world could I have done anything that warrants that as a reaction. Did I screw your man? No. Did I throw your dog over a bridge? No. Did I burn your parents' house down with them in it? No. I didn't do any of these things. So what could have happened at that moment that warrants a woman, a grown-ass woman, picking up a Magnum like she is a thug in a club and smashing it against another woman's head?
It made contact with your head. So this is Blood, Sweat, and Heels.
Yeah.
A show that I was, I don't think, do you know this? I was offered to showrun Blood, Sweat, and Heels.
You should have, because maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Because
I was literally telling the producers of the show, I don't feel safe around her. And I wasn't being over dramatic. I really knew that she is going to cause me harm. I knew it. I kept telling them. And they would not listen to me. And they kept putting me in situations where we would face off with one another. And I just was like, this is not going to end well, you know? But then, you know, as talent, you feel, and you're contracted to be there. You've been paid, blah, blah, blah. You feel like you can't really say much, especially when you're like in your first and second year. You know, it takes a couple of years before the diva shit kind of, you know, comes in. But, you know, so I mean, like, that's what I mean, like, where I've experienced, like, you know, like lethal, like, jealousy from and envy from women. Like, you know, so I've had women try to destroy my reputation, my character, like complete and total character assassination. Just, I mean, like, these are some of the experiences that I've just had. And it just kind of just all goes back down. It's like, it's all boiled down to, you know, jealousy, envy, insecurity, and stuff like that. Like, I mean, don't get it twisted about women. Like, there's times where we have bigger egos than y'all. Like, and we could be vicious, you know? And I've experienced a lot of that and honestly been on the receiving end of it, because I've never done that to any woman. I've never like created like a whisper campaign about a woman and sabotaged another woman and, you know, tried to like dismantle another woman's reputation or tried to destroy her character by trying to like enroll people and get people not to like her, don't give her jobs. Like, that's not me. I'm always actually the chick that tries to find a way to put checks in my girlfriend's pockets, even if I'm not the one signing it. And my girlfriend over there is nodding her head. I can see it on my peripheral because it's true. I'm not lying, you know, like, and I don't have to justify this because I know that my friends would be like, that is exactly who she is. You know, I'm very comfortable in the role that I play in my, you know, in my chosen family's lives. And that's what I look at my girlfriends as, is my chosen family, you know?
Did Blood, Sweat, and Heels get canceled because you were hit in the head with a glass bottle?
It was not a glass bottle. It was a Magnum of vodka, and the bottle was shaped like a diamond. It was not even a sleek bottle like a Moet bottle. It had points on it, and it was this big, and it was full. And that is what she picked up and hit me in the head with. Mind-blowing. I still have a dent in the side of my head from where it connected, like my skull. Like, the doctors basically told me that it was like miraculous that I survived that because of how close it was to, like, you know, blood vessels and that sort of thing, like, you know. And I didn't have like lasting brain damage, but I did have like a huge concussion. Yeah.
Did you sue her?
I don't think I can talk about it because there was legal action that was taken, and then there was a settlement, and then there's certain terms of the settlement that were really disgusting, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. Mm-hmm.
Would you ever go back to reality television?
It would have to be a scenario in which I felt completely safe. Like, maybe do my own reality show centered around my life and the people in my life so that I felt safe from being attacked. But like an ensemble cast of women, who are trying to, create good TV and, and engagement and stuff like that, I'd never trust that shit again. Never.
And then to know that years later, you get into this unfortunate, massive car accident that left you.
I was hit by a truck. I was on my way to a bridal shower, and I was 5 minutes away. I was on the 134 freeway in California. I was between Glendale and Pasadena. And I drove a really, really big Jeep, suspension kit, tires, like big dirty tires and whatnot. And this truck, its wheel connected with my wheel, and it just, knocked out. And I was going like 75 miles an hour, maybe 80. And so it kind of knocked out my center of gravity. And so I was trying really hard. Like my Jeep just started spinning. It was almost like being on a teacup ride at the fair, like the teacups that kind of spin and disorient you and stuff like that. That's what it felt like inside my car. And I was trying to counter the spin with my steering wheel and whatnot. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I could feel that the Jeep was lifting up. And once that momentum was happening, and so the weight of the vehicle was starting to move towards the ground, but while I'm hurtling through at 75 miles an hour, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to survive this. So I just kind of sat still and just whatever was going to happen, happened. I didn't think I was going to live. I thought I was going to die. And I just didn't feel like I should just, what was there to do? It was a moment in which I had to just say, okay, this is my time. This is the day. It's happening. And so the Jeep rolled 5 times on the freeway. And when it rolled, the roof was ripped off. And so when it came to rest upside down. And so when it came to rest upside down, it was boom, impact. And so I was inside the driver's seat. So my head hit the pavement with the impact. And that's what cracked open my head. I had a skull fracture. My brain was bleeding, massive concussion. And I don't remember a lot from that moment. The pictures that got taken by one of the Good Samaritans that stopped for me was what let me see what the aftermath was, because I had no idea. I didn't even know Good Samaritans even stopped for me. I had no clue. I don't remember them at all. But apparently, a bunch of guys came along. They lifted up my Jeep. Somebody pulled me out. And then one guy took off his shirt and was kind of holding my head closed. And it was it was dramatic. It was dramatic. So when I finally came to, that was when the first responders were now there taking care of me and kind of loading me up into the ambulance and stuff like that. And I just was I can't believe, I didn't feel any pain at that moment. I could not believe what just happened. I just couldn't believe it. It was so surreal. I felt like this was an episode of Chicago Med or some shit, It was so strange. But yeah, so then that just started the journey of a year of healing. And it was very, 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 very difficult, because with a traumatic brain injury, you just your mood stabilizers have been compromised, so it's very difficult to regulate your emotions. So depression and anxiety, they creep in in a very just intensely. So I suffered from a lot of suicidal ideation during that time, confusion. It took me a while to walk properly. I had to go to speech therapy as well, because I couldn't, there was just words that I just couldn't remember how to say. And it was really strange, because I would think it, but it wouldn't come out of my mouth. And it would come out of my mouth strangely. It was it would be half the word. Weird stuff.
And
yeah.
How long did it take for you to get back to a sense of normalcy after the accident? How many years was it?
Well,
with the speech therapy, the physical therapy.
Well, I went back to work. I was at Hollywood Unlocked at this time.
Yeah.
So I went back to work maybe 10, 11 months later. close to a year. And, I just felt like I had to be this comeback story. I just felt like this pressure. And I think that that's something about this business too. You always want to feel like, you don't want to feel like you're missing out on anything, or that your star is falling, or, that your relevance is being compromised, or whatever the case is. You just always feel like you have to be on and performative at a moment's notice. So I just felt like, I have to be this source of inspiration. I have to be this comeback story, not just for myself, but for other people who have gone through what I've gone through. And it just wasn't really me taking into account or offering myself even the level of grace that I should have offered myself of, girl, it's okay. Mm-hmm. You can sit down for a second. There is no rush to go back to anything. Everything will be there when you get back. And if it's not, then it's not meant for you. I didn't have that way of thinking at that time. So I went back to work, and then I felt like, I was in a rush to develop my own project. So I started, I'm Here for the Food, which was my first podcast, and it was great. It was wonderful until it wasn't, because after, I want to say, the day that I launched it, I found out my mom had cancer, and I was like, God, what's up, man? Because God is not a woman. And perimenopause has made me discover that. If God was a woman, she wouldn't be doing this to us. She'd be doing it to y'all.
Oh,
okay? Yeah, well, yeah, you guys, yeah, exactly. So, so that just started another leg of the journey through a very, very extraordinarily painful time in my life of my mom, having an aggressive form of cancer, and trying to, give my attention to my podcast, because this is my baby, and I introduced to the world to my baby, and the world said my baby was pretty, and I felt like I owed it to myself to continue moving this project forward. But how do I do that when my mind is completely consumed with thoughts of my mom and wanting to be at every single hospital visit with her? And things just became extraordinarily complicated. And then pandemic happened. I was like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. So podcasts had to get kind of put on hold anyways, because between that and co-host issues, I was like, you know what? I give up. I'm just going to go home, and I'm going to be with my mom, and that's it. And I did not have much time left with her. She ended up passing away, and actually she chose something called MAID. It's medical assistance in dying. And it's for the terminally ill. It's for people who know that they're going to die. Like, they literally have days, maybe weeks, maybe months. Their bodies are being ravaged by disease, and it gives you the ability to choose the day that you go, so that you can create the surroundings that you want for yourself. You can let the family know that's going to be around you. Everybody's around you, and you create your own environment in order to feel like I'm okay to pass. And I think that that is like the most fortunate way that somebody can go. Because, I mean, what's the alternative? Murdered, getting hit by a bus, or, myriad of different ways that, we can pass away. But, I mean, to, like, control how you go out, I mean, I just thought that my mom she just was so brave,
As somebody who lost their mom,
Mm-hmm.
from breast cancer, what I would like to share with you is, and I share this to all my guests who lost a parent, you have a—
Mom's different than dad, though.
My father's still alive, thank the Lord Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mama's boy.
Mm-hmm.
And a mother's passing is, number one, the worst grief in the world.
Yeah.
In the world. regardless if you have the best relationship, so-so relationship or not the greatest.
So, sometimes it's worse when you when you have the complicated relationship because you do the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and the what ifs and the regret, and then you place so much of the responsibility on your own shoulders of I could have been this, I could have been a better daughter or son, I could have done this, blah blah blah, and it's just like you could just spin yourself around and until you just want to throw up just from like the guilt and the shame and all of these horrible feelings that are really just kind of counterproductive to like the healing journey that you need to start and, get yourself on. But, so for me, my mother and we didn't have I didn't call my mom my best friend. I didn't call my mom to update her on the latest in my life. It's just, we just didn't have that relationship. It was complicated. I loved her and I know she loved me, but we were not like warm and fuzzy with each other. So that guilt almost killed me of I could have been a better daughter. I could have included my mom more in my life. I could have asked my mom more about her life, who she was outside of being a mom, because I think that all of us kind of take for granted our mothers, like that's who you are. You're my mom and that's all I need you to be. But it's like, no, she's a whole human being outside of you. And, I think that I mean, that's why moms are like superheroes, because they literally just have to kind of kill off a certain part of their humanity in order to be mom all the time, and perception of mom and what the hell that even means to herself, to her family, to her husband, to her kids, to society at large. Like that is huge. Like that's huge. So for me, my mom passing away coincided with the onset of perimenopausal symptoms that I had no idea what they were. I was like, what?
You're like, I'm going through a lot right now.
What is happening to me? Like, why? And so the symptoms I was going through mimic grief. So depression, anxiety, lack of concentration, brain fog. That's what you can experience with grief, is you have no sense of concentration. You don't know your ass from your elbow. You mental fatigue and exhaustion all the time. That's perimenopause, but that's also grief. Oh, but then my hair started to fall out. Nails became brittle. Skin became dry. I was like, no, not the skin, not the skin. Okay.
You're like, this face has no wonders for me.
Yeah. So it was the symptoms were not, and then the sleep disruption. I used to be able to sleep 12 hours. I love it, a nap. You didn't have to, I was a kid, you didn't have to try and bribe me to take a nap. I'm like, I'm taking a nap. I love to sleep. And I would be experiencing night sweats and waking up with terror, a feeling of terror, and just fear and aloneness. And I've always been very good with solitude, but this shit was another fucking monster. And then the weight gain that wouldn't go away. And me, who's had a little bitty waist my whole life, suddenly has a fupa. And I was like, wait, hold.
Your waist is still 29-inch, Melissa. Shut up.
No, this is 27, honey, okay? Because I figured shit out, okay?
But mine is 29.
I mean, it's sexy. Yes. But it has, I have figured it out. I have biohacked the shit out of my body. I have done a lot of trial and error stuff. I work out like a beast, but also I've changed how I worked out in order to accommodate the changes that happen in a woman's body as she gets to this stage in her life. The way we eat has to change. The way we drink has to change. Basically, no drinking. And
you're sober.
No, I'm not. I was just drinking last night.
I thought you stopped drinking alcohol.
When? Maybe for a month.
No, you told me in the world, the etere, that you stopped drinking alcohol.
When did I do that podcast? I fell off the wagon. I I did. I'm sorry. Listen, okay? It's
Here I am thinking like, oh my gosh, she like changed her diet. She doesn't drink anymore.
No, listen here. Listen, okay? I am very, very, very 80-20, okay? 80% I am an angel. That 20% is okay?
That's that Scorpio.
It is. Okay, so now maybe it's 90-10 now, okay? I'm still working my way up to cutting alcohol out completely. But I'm sorry, when I see a dirty vodka martini with blue cheese stuffed olives coming my way, child, I want now.
You're like, take me now.
And then I'm just like, and then the shoulders start to.
And then M. Ford comes out, your alter ego.
Savannah.
Oh, it's Savannah now.
What'd you call her?
M. Ford.
Oh no, it's Savannah. Savannah comes out when I have a little drinky drink.
Who gets to see Savannah nowadays?
Anybody who's at R when that goes down. She is a time. She is fun.
Are you in a serious relationship?
No.
You're single?
Are you kidding me? How many women out there? How many of y'all are single? It is the dating pool has more than pee and fecal matter in it. Okay, it is.
But okay, listen.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you dated Drake.
Okay,
Who
2009.
Who,
Be
by
careful.
the way, listen,
Yes.
I ain't gonna spill your business. Listen, it's us girls.
Mm.
Everyone, listen, everybody who knows me knows I'm a Libra, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Happy almost birthday.
it's next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is November.
Mm-hmm.
I know your birthday. So Libras are drawn to Scorpios and vice versa. It's something about Libra Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
Drake is a Scorpio.
Yeah.
He's my man crush. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You dated the Drake. Okay?
In 2009, this was a really long time ago. This was over 15 years ago. And he and I were both, I was older, but not by much. Well, maybe. What was I? It's 10 years? 9 years older? I was in my early 30s. He was in his mid-20s. Yeah.
Did he spoil you?
Yeah. He was nice.
Was the sex good?
No one's gonna believe me, but we didn't have sex.
You are a liar!
I'm sorry.
Melissa Ford!
I'm sorry. I have no reason.
2 Scorpios!
I know. Trust me. Listen, I'm real funny when it comes to sex. Okay? I don't have it right away. And also the more famous the guy, the more careful I am and the more I take my time. So things kind of ended before that could actually happen. And listen, I'm not concerned if anybody believes me or not. I have no reason to.
You don't lie.
I don't lie.
I will give you that.
It would be
You would tell me of course, and you would look at me like, yeah.
Yes, I would. I would totally be if I did it. And if you ask me the right person, I might say fuck yeah, but don't ask me shit. I have
That's coming later.
I literally have absolutely no reason to lie about this because if we did it because we dated, it would make perfect sense.
So our mutual friend Tocarra was on my podcast.
Yeah, I saw that shit.
Were you mad?
Yeah.
At me or her or both?
Well, I mean, I don't really know why the conversation came up. I don't really get that. Because, I mean, it was addressed on my podcast.
Yeah.
But then
I was doing my research.
Got it. But then the revisionist history was a little wild to me.
Does it match your history?
No, it doesn't. And that was news to me.
Okay. So
Not even a little bit.
I want to give you the opportunity to address it.
I really didn't want to, actually. I was like, hey, before all this cameras rolled, guess what? I was going to tell him, don't ask me shit about that.
Why are you looking at the raindrop?
You want to know why? Because
look at Carlos.
Because this is
Go
what
ahead.
this is
Talk
what
to me.
because this is what I do on the fucking this is what I do on the podcast.
I watch it every week.
Guys say some stupid shit to me, and I just look at the audience like,
I'm not, honey. I'm a fan of the podcast.
I know you
that.
Are. I know you are.
I love it.
I know you are. I know you are.
So the thing is, and it's funny because. Listen, we all grew up together. That's how I see it. Me and the girls, 2000 New York. and we all have this community. So I didn't think anything of it, but one thing I'm learning in this space, honestly, is I will like to always give people the opportunity to fix things that may have been misconstrued. And that's me and my position in this space, especially when it comes to people who I know personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give you that opportunity if you would like to take it. So obviously in the conversation, it did appear that it was this sort of convenient moment where you did talk to, and this is me, I'm saying all of this. I want to make it clear, Tocarra's not saying that this is me saying this and I'm paraphrasing the conversation because I need to be very clear. There was a conversation you and Tocarra had where you...
I'll sum it up for you. You don't even have to ask me shit.
This is what happens when you interview a podcast host, okay?
You don't have to ask me nothing.
Go ahead, sis.
I went to my girlfriend's house because I was excited about somebody that I was dating. And I hadn't told a lot of my girlfriends. I hadn't told a lot of anybody. And I just was giddy and wanted to share with my girlfriend. I had no idea that she had a date planned with him. This was literally the biggest coincidence in the world. That's it. I had no clue, but I was already dating him. Be clear who I was in 2009. I'm Melissa Ford. I'm not worried about anybody else. I'm not. I'm still not. When Carlos, get back up here.
I'm sorry.
Listen, if there's something that I have learned at this point in my life, it's just I accept who I am and I accept my, I don't want to use the word power, but I accept who I am. I'm a beautiful woman. I'm an accomplished woman. I am a gainfully employed. I have a lot going for me. A lot. I'm not going to dim my shine for anybody at all. So when I reference myself, when I talk about myself, I'm going to speak about myself in the most truthful manner. And it took me a long time to get here, to be able to speak this way about myself and to like myself the way that I like myself and love myself the way that I love myself and accept that I have things about myself that might intimidate other people. It took me a long time to get here. And I'm not assigning, intimidation to anybody. I'm not. But, if it don't apply, let it fly.
Melissa. Now you know I love you pop your shit. this is a sidebar, and guys, it's a sidebar, and I'm gonna get back to the topic at hand. So I was Melissa Ford's production assistant. She was hosting BET Style. This first day at work for her and myself. Candida Boyette, the executive producer, was like, Melissa's nervous. She's hosting a show. Can you talk to her? And you stop me when I'm wrong. I would say to Melissa Ford, you are everything. You that girl. You bad. Like,
you would.
And she'll be like, can you come on set and just tell me that in between takes? Like, can you hype me up?
I was like,
because you were so.
I would speak in my highest register.
Yes,
that's what you do when you're real nervous.
Yeah.
And they were like, Melissa, get your voice down there. You know what I mean?
No, Candida was like, what did you do to her? I said, I just told her she's everything, and she's like, blah blah blah. She said, whatever you're doing is working.
Yeah.
Why was there a moment in your life, though, where you were afraid to own the skin you're in?
I don't think that that's unique to just me. I think that that's women. I think that, society by and large, breeds us and conditions us in such a way for us to always feel like we're less than. I mean, like, if you look at basically any industry that targets us, it basically kind of, conditions us to think that what we have naturally is not good enough. So alter, change, surgically, change or whatever the case is. It's just we're constantly told that we are not enough, we're not good enough. And it takes an enormous amount of work, shadow work, self-awareness, and just like the development of like self-esteem and self-love and all the concepts of self to like really come to a place where nothing that anybody says can shake you or break you. But so many of us never get there, you know? I mean, I still have my moments of like insecurity. I still have my moments where I don't feel like I'm talented. Sometimes the imposter syndrome creeps in like a mofo, you know? But like when I hear Viola Davis talking about imposter syndrome, I'm just like, whew, well, if she has it, then somehow, some way that gives me some kind of comfort because, I mean, this is Viola Davis. She's one of our goddesses, you know what I'm saying? Like, she is one of the greatest actors of our generation. Like, every time she comes across the screen, our breath is caught in our throats. Like, what's she gonna say? What's she gonna do? And she has imposter syndrome? You know, those are the kinds of the things that, like, I kind of, you know, weave together in my tapestry of, you know, the quilt that keeps me warm and keeps me fulfilled and keeps me, you know, keeps pouring into me and keeps me feeling good about myself. You know, these are kinds of the things that I tell myself. If like women like Viola Davis feel the same kind of insecurity that I feel at times, then it is a figment of our imaginations and it's something to get past.
Why didn't things work out with you and Flo Rida? Because you two...
Ew, God. Oh, yuck.
Y'all were engaged.
Ew, yuck.
I mean, y'all were... He's tall and...
So what?
And recently won a lot of money.
Great. I'm very happy
Did you think,
for
like,
him.
what the hell?
Not even a little bit because he had a lot of money when we were dating.
Did he spoil you too?
Yes.
Why didn't that work out? Because knowing you seem to be in love. And one thing I know about you are notorious private.
Yes.
You are...
I walked red carpet.
You're dangerously private.
Yes.
Like, it takes a minute for anyone to know anything about you.
I'm like Mr. Deeds. Don't underestimate my sneakiness.
No, real talk.
One of my best friends calls me creep life. I'm notoriously private, even to some of my closest friends. Yeah. I am very, very, very choosy about the things that like I talk about or reveal. It's very much a thing of, I don't know if it's a thing yet, so I don't want to talk about it. Maybe there's a little bit of like, you know, superstition, don't want to jinx it, or just...
I think it's a jinx thing.
It's just, it's a bunch of things, but sometimes it's just, I just don't feel the need to like, to share, or sometimes I forget. I don't know, like, I don't know.
So imagine my surprise. I'm like, oh, she's public with this.
Yeah.
So I looked at you and I was like, she's in love. And you know that's all I want for my girls. Is like to get married and find love.
I just want to let everybody know that this was almost 13 years ago. Yeah, it's almost 13 years ago.
What happened to the point where my girl who's publicly in a relationship that she finally said, okay, is this one y'all can like see what went wrong in that one?
It ended and not well.
Did he cheat on you?
There was just stuff.
Did he have a baby on you?
I have no idea. I have no idea what happened after I left.
Okay.
I did not keep up with his life. You know, I see he has children now. I don't. Children, I have no idea. I don't keep up. Yeah.
One thing I know about you, you are very particular about who you date. And the one man...
And then every once in a while, I make a misstep in judgment.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yes.
I never told you this.
Oh, my God.
There's one rapper who I always felt like you should have dated.
Oh, God, I can't wait to hear this shit. Maybe I did.
Can I say his name?
Yeah. That's not because you know I'm private. I might have.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'll tell you.
I can't wait to hear this.
I know. This is... Okay, there's one who's already married that I thought back. This is before he got engaged and married. Well, he's married. When he was single. Because again, we're at BET and we used to go to like these events together. And it's these two rappers. One is now married, one isn't. And at the time that this married man was single, I was like, I see him with Melissa.
Why didn't you set us up? What?
Well, I wasn't. I was a PA. Listen, you were Melissa Ford. I was not Carlos King.
But the truth is like I really, at that time, I really had no interest in dating in the music industry.
Well, through our personal conversations, I knew that. That's why I never told you that back then.
Yeah.
That's why I kept it a secret until today.
Yeah.
So that man was Nas.
I mean, you know, he's definitely the guy that it doesn't matter what your type is, you make an exception for that mofo. Why didn't you set it up?
You told me you didn't want to date rappers back then.
No, I'm kidding. I don't. You know, I remember I was bartending at this lounge called Sliver, and do you remember? Do you remember Sliver? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it was lit.
Yes. New York.
And he came in with Khalees. Yeah. And I just, you know, he was so nice and so polite and, you know, tipped well and that was it, you know. But it's funny that you think about him because that was before I even got to BET. So this would have been 2003. So yeah, he'd come in with Khalees and he's an extremely attractive man. But I really didn't think one way or the other about it. And also he was with Khalees, so.
Can I tell you why I thought about him?
Sure.
And why there's still a possibility today. So Nas, if you're listening and watching, hear me out. Because I know you personally, you like, I try to spill your tea. So you could stop me if I'm doing too much. You like smart men.
Yes.
Who are wealthy.
I mean, it helps.
You like to learn from your man.
Yes.
You like your man to be able to have a business sense who can teach you things about business. You are a wordsmith. So the man doesn't particularly have to be like Stanford, Harvard degreed because you like a little street in your man. But he has to be able to hold the conversation in terms of matching your wit. So when you use these big elaborate words that we would tease you about back in BET, like this knows every word in the Webster's Dictionary, this man would understand what you mean and he would match your fly. And I always thought, like, in my opinion, the man, if there's a man in the hip hop industry, to me, that matches you, that man would be Nas.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, he sounds like all the things you just said. Sure. Yeah.
Do you want me to contact him?
Child night.
I know, listen, look, I am Carlos King. So
you are. Stop. You're kind of a fucking big deal.
So want me to just say the word. I'm Carlos King now. So if you want me to, just say the word.
Okay, we'll talk about it off air.
Okay, fine. You have been relevant for more than the past 2 decades, right? You are now...
It ebbs and flows.
No, the thing is this.
I always do find a way.
No, you keep a job.
I do. I do keep a job, but also like I like to pivot in different areas of the industry. Like so after my time ended at BET, I felt like I wanted to develop my voice as an instrument. So I ended up working over at Sirius as a radio personality. And coincidentally enough, that's where I met Flo, at Sirius. But that was just, you know, that was a change in the direction of just kind of like adding to like my resume and my professional acumen and just kind of just developing myself as overall talent, not just, you know, as a host, but also as a radio personality and kind of learning that business as well. And so after that, I started, you know, kind of like dipping my toe into like, you know, the philanthropic realm. And I started working directly with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And they used to send me out on tours, talking to high school students and college students about sexual responsibility in a hypersexualized culture. And, you know, just kind of raising awareness for the prevention of HIV and AIDS in the African-American community. I mean, this is something that I don't think a lot of people know about me, because it wasn't something that I really like kind of promoted. And it's not like social media kind of existed while I was doing it. So it's not like you would see these kinds of things on like a social media page. But that was I did that for several years, in conjunction with radio personality and, acting as well. But I've just kind of been flying by the seat of my pants. I got wings on my butt and just kind of seeing where I land. I haven't always been so, just direct in my approach to my career. Sometimes I just was like, oh, let me try this, let me try that, But that's when you're young, you can do that shit.
Yeah, and I'm saying, and that's when you find things that you like, you don't like.
Yeah.
Podcasting has been great for you. When you were doing Hollywood Unlocked, I was like, oh, wow, she's really good at this. And I felt like, because again, we did BET Style together, and I always knew you were talented as a host. That's a different type of host because it's much more like vocal.
Yeah.
It did sadden me to see that you and Jason fell out, and when he was on Drink Champs, he didn't say the greatest things about you. What happened with your relationship with him?
I just think that we, I'm a Scorpio, he's a Leo. We're two extremely strong personalities. And I just think that, there was... this is where diplomatic Melissa kind of pops up. She's always like, girl, keep it cute. I just think that, I don't know, our professional relationship had just kind of run its course. I left after my mom passed away. I was a different person after my mom passed away. I didn't even come back to the States for over 2 months. I was staying at my aunt's house in the woods. I was in the woods, grounding, walking in my bare feet, hugging trees, crying my face off, walking with dogs and just communing with nature because I couldn't be around human beings. I was overstimulated. I was going through perimenopause. I was grieving my mom's death. I was coming to terms with the fact that I was a completely different person. And discovering who this person was, and it was extraordinarily painful, and it just coincided with my job needing me to come back. And Mel, what are you going to do? And I was like, I can't do this anymore, and that's basically it. I couldn't do anything, really. I just couldn't do anything. I was a mess after my mom died, a real mess. So. That's just pretty much where I'll leave it, is that I left because I was not okay. My mom passed away. The show had to go on. He made choices I didn't really agree with. And, I'm very happy for him to see where he has taken Hollywood Unlocked. I watched him start this, and to see where it is right now, the award show and how successful he is. I mean, I wish him nothing but the best. I have zero hard feelings, none whatsoever. And I think that I think he's one of the most driven, ambitious people I've ever met in my entire life. And to a certain extent, a lot of times it was very inspiring, so that's literally all I can say on that.
And now you with Joe Budden.
I am.
There's
that crazy genius.
Yeah, he did an interview recently, and he brought your name up, and he pretty much talked about, I'm paraphrasing, that it's nice that he gets to work with his friends. And he gave a reason why each of you guys are there. And when it came to you, he said, she's a friend of mine. Obviously, she's beautiful, and she's been around, this hip-hop industry for a long time. She has so much wealth and insight and wisdom. Plus, guys looking at her, that's a plus, because I know what I'm doing when it comes to figuring things out. But he really said some very high complimentary things about you.
That's sweet.
In terms of how much of a necessity you are to that platform. I'm sure you have heard other people say, well, why is she there? She don't offer much. She don't say much. They don't let her talk. You are in this male-dominated podcast. You are the only female. Do you have moments where you feel like, do y'all need me? Why am I here?
No, I don't think that I've had those moments, but yeah, I see a lot. I've seen a lot of the criticism, and there's people that obviously think that they can do my job better than me, and I'm like, no, you couldn't. And there's people that say, oh, well, she doesn't offer much, she doesn't say much, and I'm just like, slow and easy wins the race. You know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to being in a room with men, and I'm in a man cave, there's the feeling of being an interloper, has been very prevalent, and I Google the word interloper.
Melissa,
I'm sorry.
See this? Nas, that's why she needs to be with you. I'm sorry. Nas, if you have a girlfriend or wife, my apologies, but go ahead, interloper.
So, there's times where the direction that the conversation is going in, I use my discretion to basically assess, this does not require my input. It doesn't. And if I do, I don't know, it just will look, it's not authentic or whatever the case is. I choose when I speak. And a lot of times, the truth is that when men listen to women talk, the default reaction is to be skeptical, And when men are around each other, there's a very hive mind kind of mentality that is very, very difficult to break through and overcome, And so, like, these are some of the challenges. And y'all don't even know it. You're not aware of it. Like, I'm sure the same thing happens with women, but Meryl Streep said one time that women speak men. We speak man. Men do not speak woman. And I was like, bars, bitch. Bars. Because it's true. As women, because we bring progeny into the world and, like, we multitask. We have to know where your keys are, when your socks are, where everything is that you can't find and shit like that. It's just like we have brains that just, like, function that way to, like, just do a multitude of tasks all at the same time. And we memorize the nuances of the men that are a part of our family, our husbands, the people that we're constantly around. And, there are times where I assess it's the best time for me to speak and what my contribution is. And then there's other times where I assess that it's not the time for me to speak and I fall back. And some people have issues with it and other people see exactly what I'm doing. And, well, I'm still there, motherfuckers. And they love me and I love them. And that's just what it is. And I'm not going anywhere. So...
And the other thing, too, honey. Oh, look. An interloper is a person who becomes involved in a place or situation where they are not wanted or are considered not to belong. I hate you. Ah! You are the smartest. I cannot stand your side. But that's the reason why. Congratulations. You have a new podcast.
I do.
Tell us what this is about. When and where they can find it, download it, stream it, all those things.
So I'm going to keep this brief. So we are trying to launch on October 1st. We're probably going to end up doing a soft launch because, Lord, putting together a podcast of this level is not easy. And I was racing against time to start it in October because October is Menopause Awareness Month. So I really wanted to take advantage of that. And I still want to as well. But there's been a little, little just missteps that have to be kind of corrected and stuff like that. So we're working on all of that now. So where you'll be able to find it is my YouTube page, where the link is in my bio, on my Instagram page. My Instagram page is @MelissaFord, MELYSSAFORD. This is the stage of life that I'm in right now. I'm 47 years old. I'm turning 48. I am speaking to the women of my ilk. I'm speaking to the women who are a little younger than me, in like 38. And you guys, the shit's coming down the pipeline and I want to help you because you're not ready for this. And the women that are currently going through the same stage of life that I'm going through. And also the women that are past it, that can be a part of the community and can offer the sage wisdom that we need and that we require. And that's really what I want to do. Is I want to, provide a platform that helps to remove the shame and the stigmatization that has been associated with menopause for so long. Because the fact that women are considered basically one foot inside the grave once they hit this stage in our life is such lie that society and patriarchy has basically tried to like kind of ram down our throats. And the reality of the situation is that the vast majority of women that I know in perimenopause and postmenopause are the most brilliant, vibrant, vital women I've ever met in my life. They are stunningly gorgeous, and there's no still gorgeous. They are stunningly gorgeous. They have so much going on in their lives. They are just, youthful women because that's what they choose. Their skin is flawless. They have all the things going on in their lives. And you know what? They have a lot to say, and they have a lot to contribute to this world by way of the wisdom that they've accumulated through their lives. And this is the platform that I want to give to them and others to share these kinds of stories, and also benefit from like the expert advice given by the doctors and the medical professionals that I want to have on as my guests to teach women just how to navigate this time in our lives that can last between 10 and 20 years. It's a long time, and a lot happens. Most people think that menopause is a gynecological issue, and it's not. Most of what happens in menopause happens inside of our brains. And this is where, the destabilization and disorientation and the confusion happens. And it's horrible to think that women go through this by themselves. And so I started perimenopause. I was like, oh, hell no. No, somebody help me, and who knows the answer to this, and we got to get a crew together and start talking about this and screaming this from the rafters, because I just don't want any woman to feel like she's alone during this span of time in her life, that she's covered during this time. We got you.
Go download it, support Melissa, and of course, honey, twice a week, the Joe Budden podcast.
Yes.
And like she said, she ain't going nowhere.
That's right.
Thank you, boo.
I love you.
Love you.